The only motivation in all their activities was simply to love and satisfy Krishna. And if we foolishly consider that activities to be mundane anyway, it will be impossible for us to understand Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tafpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishamamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatamsha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sandubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namane Nama Om Nija Guru Harivanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitrige Hadyanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Madhyayan Samsa Vishwa Bhuvi Jayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Vagishayasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chivakshasi Yasyaste Hridaye Samvit Tamritsimham Aham Bhaje Prahalada Hridaya Hladam Bhakta Vidya Vidaranam Sharadindu Ruchim Vande Parindra Harim Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are reading this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, sorry, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, describing the gopis worshipping goddess Durga. And especially Katyayani, the Katyayani, like Srila Prabhupada, and mentions in the Christian book, and the disciples of Srila Prabhupada who are translating this, they are actually quoting different acharyas. Most of this over here is actually taken from previous acharyas' commentaries. But this actually a very famous pastime of Krishna, because after performing the Katyayani Vrata, what happens is Krishna reciprocates with the gopis by stealing their garments. And there's one of the traverses here. Someone can open the door if it's closed. Yeah, it should be okay. Many devotees, they can understand this properly, the pure devotees of Krishna. But so many Mayavadis, etc., they actually, somehow or the other, they learn to skew up different meanings from this pastime. They skew up different meanings, they try to come up with their own philosophy. And like this, we can see over here, Vyasadeva is so, he's so accommodating. He facilitates that illusion. Yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhaya chitumichiti tasya chalam shraddham tam eva vididamyaham. That Krishna himself is a person who actually gives the faith in order for a person to worship a particular demigod, for a person to worship, even so many people that they worship knowingly or unknowingly, they worship someone or something. That it just goes without saying. It's just a natural part of the living entity to worship someone or something. They say, no, I don't worship anything. I'm an atheist. I don't worship anyone. But then you see the same atheists standing in lines, for standing in long lines, in order to enter into a concert in the cold, and they have to pass water, but they can't really go until sometime they perform so many austerities, and then finally they go inside the concert, and then the great rock stars or the dance stars come and they start playing, and they're like Jai, and they all get into it and they dance and they worship them, they adulate them in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. So worship cannot be removed from the living entity because it's naturally a part of them. Everyone worships something or someone. It's that some people realize it, some people don't. Some people recognize it, some people don't. Some people wouldn't even know that they're worshiping them, but they worship them anyway. So many people, if they're into sports, they would have a picture of their great sports star on their wall, and they focus so much of their attention upon them. And if their great sports star were to walk into the room, they naturally would feel so much awe and veneration towards that sports star. Why? Because he's very expert at kicking a ball or hitting a ball with a piece of wood, or if he's very expert at throwing a ball in a basket or like smashing it in. People feel so much respect. Similarly, the intellectuals, even among the intellectuals, there's a person that they respect. Even among the serial killers, there's a greater serial killer that they respect. Even among the jail, there's like full of serial killers. There's one guy who's the head of them all. So this tendency to worship cannot be removed. Tendency to worship is always there. So this tendency to worship, when it's channeled properly, that's actually beneficial for the living entity. But then when this tendency to worship is also misused, using the Vedas as an excuse, Krishna has to facilitate the atheists. Krishna has to facilitate the rascals. Krishna facilitates everyone, because it's a living entity's desire to forget him. So Krishna is the one who gives them the faith in order to make their worship and all their way of life, actually happen. Krishna facilitates this worship. So in order for this to happen, so many, things like this are there. Veda Vyas, like we were reading today. Actually, in every puja for Krishna, the supreme transcendental vibration is also known as Durga. So many people think that, wow, this Durga is a Durga that we are worshipping. This the Ghora Rupa, that they're worshipping outside. That you can see this. So many people worship Kali. There's, she has this Ghora Rupa. She's having so many arms. She's sitting with a trident, standing with a trident in her hand. She's killing all these demons, and like they make all these offerings to her. And many people, especially in Bengal, it's very, very famous. And this worship of demigods had even affected the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually points out that the rascal Sahajiyas, it's still affected, but there's a particular period of time when it actually became very, very prominent, about 150 years ago. There's one person, I'm forgetting his name. He's the one, this Durga Puja was going on in Bengal anyway, but they would do it in their home. But he decided to make it a public thing, and that popularity actually increased it more and more. So the Sahaja is one of the things that they do, is that in the Goswami literature, there is a pastime of Radha and Krishna, and they're both alone in a kunja together. And while they're performing their intimate pastimes, the Radharani's, I guess like mother-in-law, and all these, they actually come and they try to, catch her alone with Krishna so they can give her a bad name. And, finally all their suspicions would have completely come to fruition when they found out that Radharani is actually not with her husband, whose name is Abhimanyu. Radharani is not with her husband, whose name is actually Abhimanyu, but she's actually with Krishna, and she's never loyal to her husband. They have all these false accusations against Radharani, and they are false. Why are they false? Because, Jatila and Kutila, they is a sister-in-law, and Jatila is a mother-in-law, and they always like to, they try to find fault, and they say Radharani is the most unchaste, she's always singing of this Krishna, and she's no chastity. So in order to prove this point, Durvasa Muni, he's a great sage, Durvasa. I'm branching off here, and I'll get back to another point that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes. The great sage Durvasa Muni, actually, he says that, okay, we want to test this, the chastity of the woman. So, whoever is the most chaste woman, what they need to do is they have to fill up a pot full of water. But this pot is going to have holes. But if a woman is so chaste, that the woman who's the most chaste, she can hold this pot and the water won't flow out of it. That's a pastime. So then they say, okay, okay, the most chaste, obviously Kutila, she's the most chaste, or Jatila, she's the most chaste, one of them. Then they carry this pot, of water filled with holes, and all the water leaks out. But when Radharani actually lifts it up and she carries it, then no water leaks out. And Durvasa Muni proves her chastity. Why? Because ultimate worship, the ultimate husband of everyone is actually Krishna. So many people falsely accuse Krishna of, he's going and he's going and having Rasa Leela with other people's wives. That's so immoral. But Prabhupada says, and the common sense also says, that for a one man to have a wife and to think that wife is his is actually immoral. Because every wife is actually Krishna's wife. Every living entity is meant for Krishna's enjoyment. Mamai vamsho jiva loki jiva bhuta sanatanaha manashashyani indriyani prakritim sthani karshati. That every living entity is a part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. And because they are the part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, they are meant for his enjoyment. That's the very purpose of the living entities. Krishna creates the living entities for his enjoyment. Like it or not, that's a fact. You know, that's just how Krishna rolls. That's just how he is. He's Kartamashai. He's the boss. Nityo nityanam chetana chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. That there's one supreme eternal, and from this other, so the supreme eternal, all other eternals come about. And all these other eternals depend on this one supreme eternal being, Krishna, in order for their sustenance. That's just that's just how Krishna designed, and it's not such a nasty thing. We look at it as a nasty thing, but it's not such a nasty thing, you know. It's not that Krishna doesn't care for his devotees or anything like that. But anyway, going back to this pastime that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out, is that in the Goswami literature, there's a pastime where Jatila and Kutila, they're trying to catch Radharani alone in the groves with Krishna. And for some reason, they could make it through all the different, basically security of that the different gopis arranged. And they were about to catch Radha alone with Krishna. So at that point of time, right when they're about to bust Radharani with Krishna, Krishna manifests himself as Durga. You know, he just takes upon this form, and it looks like Radharani is offering flowers to Durga, and that way they're saved, you know, like from being exposed, you know. So what the Mayavadis and the Sahajiyas and all of them do, that you see, Krishna manifested as Durga, therefore Krishna and Durga are not different, therefore let's worship Durga as a supreme and not care about Krishna. But this is completely bogus. This is not according to Shastra. You know, the Sahajiyas and the Mayavadis, they're so expert. You know, they say that, you see, Krishna, you know, he's the spiritual aspect, and Durga, she's a material aspect. So if you worship both of them, that solves your problem. You can live happily in the material world, and Durga will take care of your material things. And you can worship Krishna, and you can go back home, back to Godhead also. That's like, they found the best of both worlds. What is Hinduism? How did Hinduism come to this particular level? It's come to this particular level because people are too lazy to understand and read Shastra. And even if they understand and read Shastra, what is Hinduism? Hinduism is basically a very elaborate Vedic excuse to avoid surrender to Krishna. That's what Hinduism is. It's one of my favorite quotes of my spiritual master. I love saying it when I have to bash, Hindus. You know, Hinduism is a very elaborate Vedic excuse to avoid surrender to Krishna. Very elaborate, you know. People read the Shastra, they don't like to follow the rules and regulations, but they also want to get the benefit of the Shastra, right? You know, because, you know, in Shastra, you know, there's so many ways you can manipulate different things to get what you want, but, you know, you want to avoid surrender to Krishna. Now, we actually are in contact with a person who's very, very expert at avoiding surrender to Krishna, but very expert at also using the Shastra to get the material benefit that he wants, and the people he is associating with also want. We know such a person, you know, and we are engaging him in Krishna service, hoping to purify him, but we make sure that we are not affected by his bogus philosophy and bogus understanding. So many people, they like to skew up Shastra. They like to take what they want from Shastra and leave out the surrender part of it. And for such people also, many excuses are there. Krishna arranges for, Krishna facilitates for all these people to somehow or the other, for them to get what they want and avoid Krishna and avoid Krishna and avoid Krishna. But how long will they be able to avoid Krishna? You know, it may take like a few billion years, a few million years. It can take time immemorial. But from the aspect of eternity, what is a few trillion years? From the aspect of eternity, what is a few 10 trillion years, 100 trillion years? You know, what is it? It's like, it's nothing actually, you know, because we are looking at it from the eye of relativity, then we actually think of it as a long time. But from the eye, you know, in the first edition of the Bhagavad Gita, it says we must look at the world through the eyes of eternity, you know. So if you look at the world through the eyes of eternity, Elson, don't mind, I'm going to ask you to stand up. Okay, please stand up. Yeah. So, you know, if we look at the world to the eyes of eternity, then we'll actually understand that what is this 10 trillion years and all these things. Somehow the other people are, there's Krishna in you know, he's, you know, Vedavyas has put him in some way, shape or form in order for anyone to perform any yajna, they first have to chant the names of Vishnu. Like this, they get purified. You know, we must not like mistake bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma su durlabhaha. That, you know, those people who take many, many births, after many, many births, many, many jnanis, they may be like so many jnanis, and after many, many births and many, many word jugglery and this and that, this, and they finally come to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, Manushanam Sahasreshu, Kashyan Yadati Siddhaya, Yatatam Abhisiddhanam, Kashyan Mam Veti Tatvataha. That, many, there's a very, very rare to find a person who actually knows Krishna in truth. So then how is it that Srila Prabhupada actually was able to come in, convert all Malachis and Yavanas like ourselves to take to Krishna consciousness? How is this possible? The answer is only simple. It's the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and nothing else. So, we understand all these things. We understand all these things because we're looking at everything through the eyes of Shastra. But so many people, they do not see it. They do not see it. Daivi hesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya. It's very, very difficult for people to overcome the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. An illusion, especially for us who are primarily in the mode of passion and ignorance, for us it may seem like illusion only comes in the platform of gross sense objects. It just comes in the platform of gross sense objects, like maybe like smoking or drinking or eating meat or chasing after girls, or watching a football game and eating chicken wings or something like this. We just think that that's, illusion. But there's a whole other level of illusion in Sattva Gun. There really is. I was sitting with this person and he was talking to us yesterday, and I was thinking that, wow, this person is not grossly attached to his wife. He's certainly not using his wife now or even in the past as a machine for sex life. He's not using his wife like that. But still, looking through the eyes of Scripture, he's probably more in illusion than those people who are actually coming to our Sunday program, who understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who got Srila Prabhupada's books, who read Srila Prabhupada's books, but are still struggling to control their senses. Why? Because Maya in the mode of goodness is a much bigger hang-up than Maya in the mode of passion and ignorance. You can understand, it's very easy to discriminate, Maya in the mode of passion and ignorance, but it's very hard to discriminate Maya in the mode of goodness. Why? Because when one comes to the mode of goodness and they worship Durga, the external potency of Krishna, the shadow of Krishna, then at that point of time, living in this material world becomes very, very nice, at least relatively speaking. You may get a back pain here and there, chant this Ganapati mantra. You may get you may get some kind of problem or something. We'll tell you one more mantra from the Vedas. And then, you're getting some health problem. They work too, 100%. The mantras work. No doubt, the mantras work. Great, my back pain is gone. Jai Hari Bol. I'll open the Vedas when I get another neck pain or something, And then, you're having some health problem. You chant the Aditya Hridayam, right? And then so many things like this, you chant this mantra, that mantra, this mantra, that mantra. But ultimately, they do not cure the disease of old age. They do not cure the disease of death. What about that? For that, you have to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we'll chant that also. Right? It solves the problem. We'll chant the Durga mantra, we'll chant Hare Krishna Maha mantra, and we'll solve, everything gets solved. But it doesn't work like that. Why? Because Krishna didn't design it like that. Krishna always wants us to have exclusive surrender unto Him. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text number 22, Ananya shintayanto mam yejanav paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. It's going to take you some time. So, this Krishna says, for those who are those who meditate upon Krishna's form exclusively, we need to have exclusive devotion to Krishna. Exclusive devotion means, okay, but those who always worship means exclusive devotion. Meditating upon my transcendental form. To them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. This is actually the purpose of everything that the devotees do. It's actually the purpose of it. By doing this, there's another verse. Krishna actually says so many times in the Bhagavad Gita that one must exclusively worship Him only. One must exclusively worship Him only. Where's that verse? Ananya Cheta Satatam. What's the verse number for that? Anyone know? Ananya Cheta Satatam. Yomam Smarti Nityasaha. Ananya. Yeah, I know. Ananya Cheta Satatam. So you can pull it up. Oh my God. Okay, so it is verse number 14 of the 8th chapter. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smriti nityasaha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. My spiritual master actually spoke about this verse right here, actually right there, upstairs in the temple room, on the word Sulabha, name from Vishnu Sahasranama. One who is very easily obtainable. For one who is meditating exclusively on Krishna, it's very simple. It's very simple actually. Just meditate on the transcendental form of Krishna. And that's why honestly, me personally, I prefer preaching to the people from the West more than those who have Hindu hang-ups. Because they're a clean slate. You go up to them and tell Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, great, awesome, man, okay, let me surrender to Krishna. And they take on if you go to, why not Durga, why not Shiva, why not Sai Baba, why not this, why not that, and it's just like this whole hang-up and like, you're okay, I'm okay, you're not okay, we're not okay. Unless you're ultra heavy with them, like they are not willing to budge. And even if you're ultra heavy with them, sometimes they still don't budge, What can you do? Enjoy being a vermin stew. And you can chant a mantra to elevate your back pain in the meantime. So we have to understand that all these things are there, but the exclusive devotion to Krishna is actually what it's at. It's actually where it's at. So the gopis also, they're worshipping Katyayani, but she's the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She's not the external Durga that people worship. She's actually completely different. She's completely different to what all these people out there are worshipping to get material gain, material benefit. What is the use of these kinds of worship? Because ultimately, you simply get more and more engrossed in this material world. You see, the more you enjoy this world, the more you're entangled in it. The more you're entangled in it, the more you're going to suffer. That's just how Krishna designed it. It's like if you're, if you're in a in a web, you're stuck in a web, and the more you move, the more entangled you get. Someone else has to come and cut you off. That's the only way you get off. Therefore, we understand that, the gopis' worship of Katyayani was completely on the transcendental platform, and it's not meant to be imitated. We don't imitate these things. We follow how our acharyas asked us to follow. Did Srila Prabhupada ask us to do this Katyayani Vrata and worship Katyayani? No, he didn't. But doesn't mean we disregard all these things either. There needs to be a proper balance. We see that the gopis, one of the things that they did was they ate Havishyan. Havishyan is basically moong dal and unspiced rice. Havishyan. Havishyan. It's in the Prabhupada rice.
Yeah.
Where is that? Oh, it's Havishyana. Havishyana. So, it's Havishyana. Okay, Havishyana. So, Krishna. The Havishyana is basically moong dal mixed with rice, and it's completely unspiced. It's moong dal mixed with boiled rice or something like this. It's unspiced. It has no spices and it has no turmeric in it also. And it's actually the food that a person needs in order to purify themselves before they perform a ritualistic ceremony. So the gopis actually perform this ritualistic ceremony. Not ritualistic. They perform this. They eat this food which is offered before a ritualistic ceremony, and they just eat this the whole time. It doesn't give so much nourishment to the body, but they actually did all these things. Why? For the sole purpose of achieving Krishna as their husband. There was no other reason. That's the only reason. It's not like they wanted to do all these things and hope that their son go to America to become a very great slave of a beefeater and a drunkard. No, they didn't do that. They didn't worship Durga. They didn't worship Katyayani for this reason. They worship Katyayani to achieve Krishna as their husband. And ultimately, we can see in the end of this chapter that Krishna fulfills their desire by stealing their garments. They didn't know Krishna is going to do this. They didn't know Krishna is going to do it. They just wanted Krishna to come, Krishna to be their husband. So Krishna fulfilled their desire, And we're seeing yesterday and then in the end, he actually completely fulfills their desire by dancing with them in Rasa Leela. But Rasa Leela was yesterday, right? That's what we were celebrating yesterday, Rasa Leela. Krishna's Rasa Leela, nothing else. Only Krishna's Rasa Leela. No one else has Rasa Leela. So Krishna's Rasa Leela we were celebrating yesterday. But how is it that Katyayani Vrata is today? We understand that, they perform the Katyayani Vrata, on this day. And then by the end of the year, they actually achieve their desired goal, which is to dance with Krishna. So We understand it like that, and we see that they're chanting this mantra to Katyayani, but it doesn't mean that now, great, we can actually look for mantras like this in the Bhagavatam and then attract all the Hindus and like tell them, yeah, you can worship Katyayani. Let's have Katyayani in our temple. We can come and have it like this. But many people have many hang-ups, and I've actually seen this happen with my own eyes. When we were distributing books in Los Angeles, who was with me? Yeah, you guys weren't, you Prabhus were in Venice Beach or something. We were distributing books in Los Angeles, and Devrata Prabhu took me to a very interesting place. It was one of the most interesting places I've ever been to in my life. Interesting, depressing, disgusting, all in one. We went to a place which was actually started by devotees. They had, I think they started off with deities of Gaunitai, and then they installed Radha Krishna. They also had Srila Prabhupada. That was really awesome. That's really good. Very nice. And they're trying to follow some standards, I guess, I hope. And that's nice. And all these devotees are like initiated disciples of some swamis. And, they were getting into Krishna consciousness, and they did all these things. But someone somewhere, or a few of them somewhere, had like a realization that let's just take what's the best in Krishna consciousness, and let's include everything best in order to bring more people, as many people as possible. And then they installed a deity of Durga, and then a deity of Shiva, and a deity of, who else? I was thinking, Ganesh. Yeah, Ganesh. Ganesh is the only one missing, right? So they installed devotees, right? Devotees installed all these people, all these other demigods, and they started. Then they worship them. So like they also do Guru Puja. They stand like, Shri Guru Chorono, and they get really Bengali, Chorono Padmo, and they do like the whole bhav, and they chant Shri Krishna Chaitanya, and they do that whole thing bad, and then in the end, then after that Kirtan is over, then they chant Om Jai Jagadish Hare, and they get Swami Jai, and then they get into this whole Hindu bhav, and they break into like these demigod bhajans, and then for their Janmashtami festival, they had like a Hindu DJ come, and the Hindu DJ is like, going at it with all the Hindu bhajans, and like some of the Hindus, like when the really ecstatic bhajans came up, they were dancing. But it all started off with worshipping Gaunitai and Srila Prabhupada. They have a deity of Srila Prabhupada right there. But then, they like do a complete mix up. They do the japa. They do like a little bit of, like a Bhagavatam class too. They read from Prabhupada's books. Wow, that was so amazing. They read from Prabhupada's books. They have a Bhagavatam class. How is this possible? It's ridiculous, right? But that's what material desires do. Bhogaishvarya prashaktanam taya pahita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhir samadho na vidhiyate. It's just impossible. We just cannot understand. Bhogaishvarya prashaktanam, they're so mad after material enjoyment that they're worshipping demigods to fulfill their desires. And this is not happening in like some nook and cranny of Bengal somewhere, right? Who cares about the Bengalis, right? They're not as great as Americans, right? But here it is. Here we have it in Los Angeles, in one of the richest neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Devotees of Krishna initiated. Can you believe that? What a beautiful Apasampradaya. It's amazing, What a beautiful deviation. I would have never imagined. I could never really see that this happening, but this is what happens. How are you reading the Srimad Bhagavatam? Srila Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavatam. How are you listening to Srila Prabhupada? How are you chanting Hare Krishna? And how do you have these insane hang-ups? But these happen. This is exactly how it starts. Wow, Katyayani Mahamaya Yoginyadishwari Maha Yoginyadishwari Nanda Gopasutam Devi Patim Me Kurute Namaha Iti Mantrab Japante Sa Pujam Chakru Kumarika. Great, fantastic. They're worshipping Katyayani. So we also can all come together, and although Srila Prabhupada never asked us to, we can also come and worship a deity of Durga, Shanti Durga, peaceful Durga. We come and worship a deity of her, we install her, and then we all come together and we start chanting this mantra. We all chant this mantra together, and then we were chanting this mantra, and then we also want to learn the Shastras very well. So therefore, let's worship Saraswati. Let's have Saraswati there, and have Saraswati Namasubhyam Varade Kama Rupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. We can chant this so we can actually get, this Saraswati into our life, and we can learn. But like this, their intelligence is completely destroyed. Maya aprita jnana, What happened? What happened? How did we start off right and end up in a completely insane way? And you know what the worst part is? I was disappointed, sure. I was disgusted, sure. But actually I was interested and I was disappointed. But what disgusted me the most is that they think there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. There's nothing wrong. They think it's absolutely bona fide what they're doing. How does it happen like this? This is how it all begins. This is how it all begins. They avoid reading Prabhupada's books, or they read Prabhupada's books, like at least they make a show of reading Prabhupada's books. But, they actually take what they like and they leave what they don't. It's called guru shopping. You ever been shopping before? I'm sure all of us have. Me, not so much. I would just do whatever. So everyone's been shopping before. You like this, you don't like this. You go to one store and you pick up a T-shirt, and you go to another store and you pick up like jeans, and you go to another store and you pick up a jacket. You go to another store and you pick up shoes, right? So similarly, guru shopping is you go and you hear from one guru. You like one of the things he says, you take it, put it in your pocket, and then you go to another guru. You like, he's saying something that the other guru didn't say, and he's saying something against what the other guru was saying. And you don't like what the other guru was saying, so you take what this guy is saying and you like and keep that in your pocket. And you go from here to there to there to there, this Babaji, that Maharaj, this Prabhu, that Mataji, this Swami, this Mayavadi, that Sri Vaishnava, this Madhva, this Shankara. We take all these people and we put them in our pocket, right? We put them in our pocket and we apply, and we can actually this Maharaj said we can do this, and that Maharaj said we can do that, and this Mayavadi said this, and that Vaishnava said that, therefore it's all bona fide, right? But no, it's not. The main disease, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur points it out in his Prakrita Rasa Shata Dushini, that the main disease is that they're lazy to understand Siddhanta. Siddhanta ala sajana. These people are lazy to understand Siddhanta. Siddhanta balya chitte nakaro ala siha haite Krishna lagi shruti da manash. That one must be very, very careful to understand Siddhanta properly. One must be very careful and discuss points, although they may sound controversial, they may discuss it in order to, and such discussion and coming to such right conclusions actually help one increase their attachment to Krishna. That's the point. But people are performing activities directly contradictory to what our acharyas is saying. Even in this very verse here, Prabhupada is quoting Narottam Das Thakur, he says, Anya Devata Chadi, that one must not worship other demigods. Why must one not worship other demigods? If one wants exclusive pure devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, one does not worship other demigods. Anya Devata Chadi. One who doesn't worship them. Why? Because it distracts them from exclusive devotion to Krishna. How many times in the Bhagavad Gita does Krishna speak about, worshipping him purely? How many times did he speak about this? So many, at least 3 times Krishna uses the word vyabhichari. One should not worship Krishna like that of a prostitute. We are not prostitutes worshipping Krishna. We need to have a devotion to Krishna like the way a chaste wife has a devotion to her husband. Mamshayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That our worship to Krishna must be avyabhicharanya bhakti. That's how our devotional service should be. Not this like that of a prostitute. I go to Krishna for this, and I go to this one for that, and I go to that one for this. No, bogus, rascal, nonsense. You're going to go to hell for this stuff. We simply have to worship Krishna exclusively. And that's what the gopis are doing. They're worshiping Krishna's internal potency. That's what they're doing. They're taking shelter of Krishna's internal potency. This is what we must all do. But if we misunderstand these points, really, Krishna always gives one the facility. Otherwise, how are people reading Prabhupada's books and starting a temple like this? This is inconceivable. What the hell are you reading? But then, we also come up with with philosophy. Those who have Hindu hang-ups come up with the Hindu stuff from Prabhupada's books. And those who have the Christian hang-ups, like the Ritvik, they actually say that, just Srila Prabhupada and the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna and no one else matters, So different hang-ups come from such misunderstandings. Why? Because they're lazy to understand Siddhanta. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gives like this. It's such a fantastic way of putting it, where they actually say there's an Upper Sampradaya, and he sums up these kinds of Hindu hang-ups, and he says, Gaurangera Pat, Chaitanya, Gaurangera Pat, Shankarera Mat. That's so genius. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati summed it up like that. What does this mean? Gaurangera mat, which means that we do all the things Gauranga did. Like, we chant, we dance, not all the things that we like. Yeah, we chant, we dance, we kirtan, Hari Bol, like, we cry in ecstasy and we do that whole thing. But we can still eat fish and do all these things, right? So we Gaurangera pat, we follow in the line of Lord Chaitanya, like, as the things that we like. But we also do Shankarera Mat, but ultimately we subscribe to the philosophy of Shankara. And so many people have misused instances like this in the Bhagavatam. Not just this, okay, you want to worship Shiva, read the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam, read the churning of the milk ocean. And before they go to churn the ocean of milk, all the demigods are glorifying Shiva as being Parameshvara. How about that? How about that? Right? It's right there in the Bhagavatam, right? That's what the Shiva Shambhu. Oh, even the Bhagavatam worship Shambhu, it says Shambhu is supreme, right? Remember he was telling us that? See, you see in the Bhagavatam it's there, Shiva is supreme, so therefore let's also have Shiva. And then we have another hang of Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, Prabhuji. So we can go and bathe the Shiva Linga, we can do all. Where did Srila Prabhupada teach us all these things? It all boils down to that. Shrishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chaye Vayasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichchana Rupam Ambiyachita Teshtatesha Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she is the shadow potency of Krishna. She's the external potency of Krishna. And she actually acts in the way that Krishna wants her to act. Very simple to understand. But, it's simple for the simple, it's complicated for the complicated, So many people, like, even yesterday we were, like, looking at some guy who's gotten into, like, a little bit of, of Krishna consciousness, and he's, like, a famous rapper, and we were listening to Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, and like a super hood beat in the back, because this guy is like, he's going to be performing in Piedmont Park, so you want to see if it's even worth. And we actually distributed a Saptarishi to him in New York, Launderell, But like, he's saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Shanti, Govinda Jai. And then there's like Paramahamsa Yogananda talking Mayavad in the back. Like, what the hell is this, Western twist of a khichdi, Man, it's so messed up, But then like Govinda Jai, and like, what is this stuff? It's ridiculous, But, these things happen, Why? Because, people are not firmly preaching the Siddhanta. If you're not going up, if you're not fighting our way up, but sliding down. Krishna consciousness is a constant battle. We battle with our minds. We battle with the opposition. We battle with Apasiddhanta. There's a constant, there's a thing. And you see many people, you're so, you're so like, you're not inclusive, you're so exclusive, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, matter of fact, we're exclusive. We're exclusively worshipping Krishna. We don't want to include your bogus misunderstandings. We don't want to include your bogus misconceptions. We are worshippers of Chinna Samshaya, a name of Lord Vishnu, who destroys all misconceptions, who destroys all doubts. Yes, we are worshippers of that Krishna. We are worshippers of that Supreme Person. We are worshippers of Shatrujit. We are worshippers of Shatru Tapana. We are worshippers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who subdues all the enemies. We worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead who scorches all the enemies. So yes, we scorch all Apasiddhanta. We crush it, we destroy it, we burn it. We burn Mayavadis. We burn their books. We don't care. So many times we go distribute books to people and they say, bro, like, wow, I have a Bhagavad Gita too, bro. And he has a Mayavadi Bhagavad Gita. And then we go distribute Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, bro, like, do you mind giving me your Bhagavad Gita? Like, yeah, no problem. What do? We cook a chapati with it. So the Mayavadi gets benefit for even writing such a book. Otherwise, so many people that are going to hell for so long, might as well have a little devotional service to save them from this stuff. So we hate these things. We very, very strongly hate these things. To love Krishna means to hate Mayavad. There's an amazing lecture. Actually, I heard that lecture and I was completely convinced that this person is my spiritual master. I have to become his disciple. To love Krishna is to hate Mayavad. It's so awesome because we are part of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Madhvas are born enemies of the Mayavadis. Madhvas are born enemies. So therefore, who cares? We care. We should care. If we don't care, we'll become like this. Gaurangera Pat, Chaitanya, Shankarera Mat. It'll become like that. No problem. In no time. It's clearly said in the Shastra that the gopis are worshipping Gokuleshwari. Who is Gokuleshwari? Yoga Maya, Purnamasi. They're worshipping a form of her. She is Gokuleshwari. They're worshipping her in order to be part of the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and marry him. But it's so ridiculous. People come up with all these crazy ideas. Where do all these ideas come from? They simply come from the living entity's desire to not surrender to Krishna. That's all. That's all. Nothing else, nothing more. That's why Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvantahari. We are Saraswatis. Namaste Gauravani Shrimute Dinatarine. Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine. We are worshippers and followers of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And what is his mission? Namaste Gauravani Shrimute Dinatarine. He's a very embodiment of Gauravani. He's a very embodiment of the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namaste Gauravani Shrimute Dinatarine. We offer a humble, respectful obeisances to him because he lifts up all fallen souls like ourselves. And what does he do? Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvantahari. He cannot tolerate any statement which is against the conclusions laid down by Srila Rupa Goswami. We don't care what color your tilak is. We don't care how many rounds you chant. We don't care in which kund you live. We don't care where you are. We don't care who you are. If your statements are against the conclusions of Rupa Goswami, we don't want anything to do with you. You're with us, you're against us. That's all. It's straight up. It's nothing to hide, nothing to mince. This is the stuff. This is the real thing. This is the real thing. We have so much to actually look forward to. We have so many things. So many people, they come up and they accuse Krishna of this, they accuse Krishna of that. We must actually learn to defend. We must actually learn to defend the Sampradaya. We must actually learn to do all these things. And Prabhupada said, for one who is very expertly reading his Srimad Bhagavatam, one will be very expert at defeating all atheistic conclusions. So instead of wasting our time looking at our phones, joking with each other, fighting with each other for no reason, of course there's room for all this, but for unnecessarily overly period of time, instead of engrossing ourselves with all this stuff, just read Srila Prabhupada's books, distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. You have no time for any of this other stuff, really. Practical experience, And they do everything that they want to do, finally, people, they just end up miserable, But, if we follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, follow in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan, we'll actually see that they did everything that they did simply to satisfy Krishna. Yet that is the ultimate perfection of Yat Karochi, Yadas Nasti, Yat Juhochi, Dadasi, Yat Tapasya Konte, Tat Kushmadarpanam. Everything they did as an offering to Krishna. Guru Vadana Vidor Nisyandita Desha Vrinda. Amrita Nibrita Sarit Samplavita Shesha Deshaha. Harirati Paladhana Swadanananda Dhama. Sorry, I'm thinking of another verse. But we understand that that the great followers of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the great followers of Srila Prabhupada, they're very expert at offering the entire world to Krishna. They're very, very expert. Very, very expert at doing this. So we need to learn how to offer everything that we possibly can to Krishna, everything we can ourselves. Complete Atma Nivedana, Dainya Atma Nivedana. We must learn, to offer everything we have, including our false ego. Needs to be smashed, including everything, ahankara, all these things, they need to be smashed, we need to get it out of the way if we actually want to get to worshipping Krishna. If you want to marry Krishna, then become a chaste wife of the spiritual master's instruction to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. How about that? You want to be like, big gopi and in a bhav, bhakti, and go on with your nonsense. Why don't you become a chaste wife of the spiritual master's instruction to distribute Prabhupada's books? Then we'll talk, All talk is cheap, So many people talk and they say, Radha, Krishna, Prana, More, Yugala, Kishore. Anyone can say it, but do it, talk is cheap. Surrender, we can say, what advice do you have for anyone coming to Krishna life? And we can say surrender. But, why don't you surrender now? Surrender, really surrender, Let's do it. Let's see if you can put your money where your mouth is. Now is time. Otherwise we'll become like these people, who are all like, they talk a big game, but when it comes to actually doing the needful, they don't, So let's talk, let's do the real thing, Let's follow, And by doing this, we can assist the gopis who are having conjugal relationship with Krishna. That is the ultimate goal of life. That's the ultimate goal of life, is to assist Radha and Krishna in meeting each other. That is the ultimate goal of our life, and we have to be firm followers of Rupa Goswami. And by being firm followers of Rupa Goswami, all of our hang-ups, all our, whatever this, that, and the other thing, they'll all go away. They'll all go away. They'll all go away. Why? We simply, because of the mercy of the previous acharyas, by worshipping them. So many people, they like to worship Durga. They have all this Ghora Rupa, this Ghora Rupa of Durga, slaughtering people, drinking the blood of demons, incense and doing all these things. They worship her, and but they like to worship also the nice peaceful form of Durga. They like to worship that. But then ultimately, Durga also comes in the form of they want to live nicely in the material world. But there's never a point of time where you can live nicely in the material world. At some point of time, everything is going to come to an end. So many people, they live so nicely. A hurricane comes, war comes, this comes, that comes. What happened to your nice world? That is also Durga. You're worshipping Durga. Look at her other side. She comes riding on a lion with a trident in her hand with all her witches coming to destroy you. And who is she destroying? Her worshippers. Because her worshippers are biggest demons. Therefore, we actually have to understand that worship of Krishna is the only thing. That worship of Krishna is the highest thing. Aradhananam sarvesham. Vishnu aradhanam param. Of all kinds of worship of Vishnu is the topmost. But then, what's higher than that? Aradhananam sarvesham, Vishnu aradhanam. What do you say? I want to hear the Sanskrit. Vishnu aradhanam param. Tasmat paratanam devi tadiyanam sam archanam. That we actually worship the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the worship of the Vaishnavas is greater than the worship of Vishnu himself. Therefore, we worship our acharyas. Therefore, we offer Guru Puja every day. Therefore, we offer, therefore we chant the Guru Vashakam every day. Therefore, Dhyayan Srivam Sasa Yashastri Sandhyam. Therefore, we remember the spiritual master at least 3 times a day, if not our entire life, and if not at every moment of our life. That should be our goal. That's how we should do it. The Sambhoga and Vipralamba, this is the highest thing, Therefore, our spiritual master, Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhyai, Yayali Bhir Yukti Rapekshaniya, Tatrati Dakshada Ati Vallabhasya, Vande Guru Sri Charanaravindam. The spiritual master is very expert at arranging the intimate pastimes of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. The spiritual master, Harijana Gana Badi, Gnana Karmanda Hari, Prakatita Para Bhakti, Bhakti Siddhanta Kanti, Vinaya Nivrita Lakshmi Namede Ragamyo. He's very, very expert at destroying at destroying all influences of karma and yoga in a person's life, in a devotee's life. He's very expert. And that's why he's Bhakti Siddhanta Kanti. Your spiritual master is Bhakti Siddhanta Kanti. Therefore, we worship them, and we're talking about Nikunja, Ratikeli Siddhyai, arranging the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. These things are there. But, Prabhupada said, book distribution, this verse is actually equal to book distribution. Nikunja, that arranging for the intimate pastimes of Krishna in his groves of Vrindavan. This is the highest thing. Don't think this is the lowest thing. Don't think that, oh, no, I have to go to this. But we know one person, who's always curious, and, there is like a system and all these things, but they like to always do their own thing, and they wanted to do their own thing and do their own thing. They went and mixed with Sahajis, and their entire life got destroyed, and now they're miserable. We should not be like that. We should be happy. We should be happy worshipping Krishna the way Srila Prabhupada taught us, That we should be happy taking on the path of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as it is. No, nothing added, nothing removed. What is that? Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivedhaya Kori Swapashada Swiyadhama Sahava Avatari Atyanta Dulabha Prema Kori Bharedan Shikaya Sharana Agati Bhakatera Pran. That, we understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us the highest thing by the process of Sharanagati. So now the marathon is coming up. So get ready. The flame is really going to go up. No tolerance, no mercy. It's time to go, and it's time to go. That's all. Don't get fried, get cooked, and be ready to be offered to Krishna. That'll be the best thing. So anyway, I'll end my class here. If there's any questions or comments, we can take them now. Yes, Prabhu.
Stated by these acharyas, I've heard, I haven't seen a direct reference, that Lord Shiva is the protector of the holy Dham. Therefore, he is situated as
Gopeshwara
Natha in Bhuvaneshwar, which is the outskirts of Puri Dham. Similarly, he is found in Navadvip, forget where. Then also in Vrindavan is Gopeshwar Mahadev. And that apparently there are some statements that if one worships Lord Shiva, one will be bestowed pure devotion and allowed entrance into the holy Dham. Therefore, devotees also say that our temples are embassies of the spiritual world. Therefore, they extend that. First, you can comment on that, and then if you can comment on it, and then they extend that and they say, well, what's wrong, we can establish Shiva in a particular corner of the temple, and that's very auspicious. He protects the temple. It's not the main deity; it's on the side. And he blesses people who worship him with pure devotion to Krishna. That's
Yeah.
what they say, and I. Um, yeah, anyways. I don't even know if there are some statements that are recommended that before you enter the holy dham, you should worship and then go. And I don't know. I haven't found anything like this in the database.
Yeah.
But this is very popular.
And this one's like an alley-oop. Vishnu's thrown me the ball, so I have to slam dunk this one. So yeah.
Reminder,
Okay.
9 p.m. is a hard time.
All right. I'm going to make it short and brutal. So, like the people who are saying these things, Jayam Vishnupat to them, but Srila Prabhupada never taught us these things. You think Prabhupada didn't know? Prabhupada is the Uttamadikari. He knows all the Shastras day in and day out. He's a person Bhagavata. And
Prabhupada has to take guidance from previous acharyas.
yeah, Prabhupada has to take guidance from previous acharyas, but we did as Srila Prabhupada did. And we see in all the temples that he has, okay, previous acharya, did Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur install like demigods on his temple property? On his temples? Not that I know of. Right? So, okay, we're taking guidance from previous acharyas, let's take guidance from them. Let's see how the previous acharya said Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't do.
One of the things they say the Prabhupada wanted, like for instance, New Vrindavan have the 7 temples. Part of that is also to have Shiva.
Did he say to have Shiva Linga or not? So it seems to be more like a concoction. Really, it's honestly an excuse for our Hindu hang-ups. Most of the people who propose it are also Hindus. And some coming from a Hindu background. And some devotees, they want to delve into it because this contamination is always there. The contamination to want to worship demigods is always there. It's always there, And in order to, if Prabhupada didn't teach it, why do we have to do it? When Prabhupada, want his temples protected, you want to protect your temples, have Narasimhadev there. Who can protect better than Lord Narasimhadev? So we just do things the way Srila Prabhupada does it. Otherwise, it becomes like that disgusting, interesting, and horrible temple that I was talking about. It's just a matter of time until these things come up. We already know, you hate me if you want to, not you, but people can hate me if they want to. But we're already seeing these things happening in certain temples. In the West, we already see there's everywhere. I guess everywhere you're seeing all these things happening in the temple, and you can clearly see the dilution of Siddhanta. You can clearly see the Bahushaka Anantasya and not Vyavasayatmika Buddha or not one-pointed focus on worshipping Krishna. We already see it. We already see it happen. So in order to prevent ourselves from these kinds of things, we simply follow what Srila Prabhupada did. If they want to do what they want to do, good luck, Good luck is you and your devotional service. But, okay, when Prabhupada went to Vrindavan, did he go and offer his obeisances to Gopeshwar Mahadev and then it didn't? No. Then why do we have to do it? As far as we're concerned, all we know is what Srila Prabhupada taught us, and he's representing the entire Guru Parampara. And we're completely confident that by following Srila Prabhupada, they can go back home, back to Godhead. If someone else has some other ideas, Jayam Vishnupat to them. But we don't give a fig about them. We don't follow what they say. And we just continue doing what we do and march on our way back to Godhead. It's simple. Prabhupada didn't teach us, so why do we do it? It's nothing more, nothing less. This Acharya, this Acharya, that, okay, we're following IT here. Prabhupada said the IT here, and we're following him like that.
I haven't found any references though. They say acharyas have said it. Might be that again, what context, what reference, what they're speaking that is it's so done doesn't mean that they're recommending it. It's like the Bhagavatam is saying, you want this, you worship the demigod, I want this, you worship. That doesn't mean the Bhagavatam is recommending that for pure devotees.
Yeah, and we understand it through our acharyas. That's the point. Anything else? Yes, Mahotsaha Prabhu. Oh, Vishnu, did you have anything else? Okay, yeah, Mahotsaha.
Propose and saying that she can basically engage people in devotional service. So first, what's the difference between Bhakti Devi, Tulsi Devi, and this what we're talking about? And after you answer that, can you talk about why this worship of Tulsi Devi is different than
Mm. So yeah, so the Yoga Maya, right? She's actually Purnamasi. You know, we can actually see her personality. She, if we read the Goswami's literatures, we'll actually find that she's the one who's arranging for all the pastimes. So she's the Bhakti Devi. She's Purnamasi. She's like she's like a mystic yogi in Vrindavan who actually is arranging all of Krishna's pastimes. So Gokuleshwari, yeah, that's the person who arranges all the pastimes. And Tulsi Devi, she's like an expansion, and like that's why she knows Vrindavan. She's found all over the forest. It's known as Vrindavan, literally, which means forest of Tulsi. So Vrindavan, and we understand. But the most important point we have to understand that all Shaktis come from Srimati Radharani. That's the most important thing to understand, And Gokuleshwari can be used in like different, like Yashoda Mai also is called Gokuleshwari. She's a wife of Nanda Maharaj. So we have to see it in the context that it's being used. So we understand it like that. But ultimately, all Shaktis are coming from Srimati Radharani. So we understand it like that. So what was your? Is that okay? Yeah. What's the second question?
So like you're talking about how like the gopis were like doing the worshipping kind of Kathayani like this. So if that's the same as worship of Bhakti Devi, then like what's the difference of worshipping like that and not worshipping Tulasi Devi?
They're different personalities. Vrinda Devi is different from Katyayani. They're different personalities. And again, like, the differences that Acharyas taught us to worship like this. And she's very directly into, she's, I need to probably find you like the exact quote, but she's basically like the right-hand person of Purnamasi. She's the right-hand person of Yogamaya. She's like, looks into the nitty-gritty of arranging all the pastimes even more. So we understand it like that. I could get it, the person I need to email is Shivaram Maharaj and he'll have all the answers. If you're really into it, I could ask him. It'll be an excuse for me to talk to him anyway before the marathon. So I'll ask him. Is that okay? Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
When we're thinking of Yoga Maya, the form we're thinking of is the spiritual form of how to go to Radha.
So, like I was saying, this the main Shakti of Krishna is, and you need to take it into context. Gokuleshwari, like I was saying, Gokuleshwari can mean Yashoda, Gokuleshwari can mean Radharani, Gokuleshwari can also mean Purnamasi. She's, arranging all the pastimes. So, Yogamaya, usually when we say Yogamaya, the other form, basically the perverted reflection of Yogamaya is Durga. And Prabhupada also said that a picture of Radharani, if there's only a picture of Radharani and only worshipping Srimati Radharani, she actually becomes a perverted reflection. She actually becomes Mahamaya and puts you in illusion. So from that, we can, logical inference would be that, Yogamaya in that sense, in that context, would be Radharani. Okay. Anything else?
So, I believe that, there's, so, again, Shivaram Maharaj is the best person to ask. Krishna has three energies, Samvit, Sandhini, and Hladini. Each of them have their forms. They all have roles to play in Vrindavan, actually.
Yeah.
And
not just that, Yasyasya Hridaye Samvit, she's also present in the heart. Anyway, go on here.
Yeah. So, who is exactly what, I don't know. But that's there. And Radharani is Hladini personified.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But at the same time,
she's the source of all.
She's the source of both, also Samvit and Sandhini. Because Hladini is the superior. Is
internal,
the internal potency is primarily referred to as Hladini. Although it also is Samvit and Sandhini. And sometimes Balaram is also associated.
Yeah, with Samvit. He's associated with Samvit. And if you really want to get, so that's Samvit. So, Lord Balaram, okay, I don't mean to get super esoteric here, but, like Lord Balaram, Lord Balaram, he associates Krishna as a Vatsalya Ras, where he's like the older brother, in the Sakhya Ras, where he's like the friend, in the Dasya Ras, where like he's Krishna's servant, he massages Krishna's feet sometimes, and then also like in the Shanta Ras, where like, he becomes Krishna's paraphernalia. But how does Lord Balaram worship, help Krishna in the Madhurya Rasa? How was it possible? He obviously can't be there as a male, therefore like that potency is known as Ananga Manjari. So that's there. Anyway, once you get into it, it's like, well, it's very, very detailed. And then all this is there. And we must aspire to, like, Vishaya Chariya Kabe Shuddha Habe Man, Kabe Hama Heba Hera Boshi Vrindavan, But, we want to be freed of all our lusty desires and we want to study the literatures of the six Goswamis, of course. We're not banning that. But first thing, Ar Kabe Nitai Chan Karunak Hoi Be, Samsara Pasana Mor Kabe Tucha Habe. When I desire to enjoy the material world becomes Tucha, then we get into it.
Each of the gopis also represent different moods of service.
The Ashtasakis, yeah.
So Radharani being the source of all the moods, she expands herself into actually the 8 gopis. And they relish different moods. Radharani relishes all of them, but separately they also relish. So the point is that Supreme Lord's energies are unlimited, and they interact with him in unlimited ways and forms.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes a really complex net.
Yeah.
And we are also a very distant
Shakti of the Supreme Lord.
Expansion of that
That
energy.
Shakti, Tatashta Shakti, Vividaiva Shruyate.
So that's who we are.
Yeah.
It's as, and in one sense, if you think about it, it's like we are some distant expansion of the energy of Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
And I think that's been quite good.
Yeah, really.
Right?
And then you get
We
into
don't
the
even
whole,
understand ourselves.
yeah, then you get into the whole Taratamya thing, and then that's like a whole other thing. But yeah, there's, I mean,
Not the way the Madhva.
not the way the Madhva say it, but still. Anyway, so Mataji's, anything? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll discuss
Dude,
about that.
absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. Definitely not,
We'll
absolutely
discuss
not.
about that.
Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's part of the Ishtagoshti. But yeah, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You may like come across various astrologers and they may give you like a yantra for Buddha and a yantra for like this and that. Throw it in the trash. We don't need that stuff. Anything else? Yes. Okay, don't throw it in the trash. Don't even get it. Bury it. Or throw it in a river. Throw it in a river. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Throw it in a river, Chattahoochee, closest river. But there's a question online. I still have 1 minute and 18 seconds. Hey, at least I can hear the question.
This devotee told me to chant Ganesh mantras to remove obstacles yesterday. How do you respectfully decline without being puffed up or sounding puffed up?
Say, Srila Prabhupada didn't teach us to. Yeah, if you really, okay, that's one. Okay, I'm going to answer it like in a different way. So, Prabhupada didn't teach us to do it. If you really want your obstacles to be removed, you can, pray to Krishna that, this obstacle can be removed. Firstly, one needs to understand that Krishna is putting this obstacle in our way in order for our purification. So, if the devotee asks you to worship, chant the Ganesh mantra, you can just say, Prabhu, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with doing it, that's all.
And also, during Mangala Arati, a lot of...
You can worship Lord Nrsimhadev, who Ganesh is a devotee of, and he'll remove all your obstacles.
So, another one. Also, during Mangala Arati, a lot of devotees chant these mantras that I've never heard and don't even know. Should I just not repeat, or is that offensive?
During Mangala, these devotees chant all these mantras. Better not just chant, depending on which mantras, but like, just stick to Prabhupada's program, and then, you could do research into like whether those mantras are bona fide or not, but you can come, better you just come to Krishna life and we don't do any of that, and that'll solve all your problems. Right? Okay, all right. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Bhagavatam ki jai. Vansha kalpadurabhya kripasindhabhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Oh, man.